For our presentation, we decided to present on the Las Vegas Aces. They are a very successful team and they recently won the WNBA championship. What makes them so successful is how they present themselves as a team. During their 2022 season, they defeated the Phoenix Mercury in Round 1, the Seattle Storm in the semifinals, before defeating the Connecticut Sun in the 2022 WNBA championship. The head coach of the Las Vegas Aces is Becky Hammon, and she was formerly the assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs. She is a leader not just for her team, but for women. She is one of the first and few female coaches in the professional field of sports. She has paved the way for women in leadership roles. She holds her team accountable, helps to achieve the team goals, and is committed to being a leader for her team. These are very important when managing a team, a business, or an organization, like we learned about in Chapter 15.
Teamwork in the workplace speaks volume for the Las Vegas Aces. Basketball, when played properly with a team, addresses all the team functions. There's a common commitment to win each game, to keep literal performance goals up, to use team members' abilities, like who can pass quickly or shoot the ball best at a certain point, to complement one another, commitment to the game, and accountability with each other. So when players see each other in practice or take time to strategize, they're keeping each other accountable. Though this could be considered a classic work group if Becky takes control and gives directions to the group, if the team decides to keep themselves accountable by themselves, then it's the opposite. Teams like the WNBA are like collaborations, with so many pro athletes coming together and making the dream work. There are a lot of things that go into making a team great, much more successful. There are stages of development, even for pro teams like the Aces. With the first step, forming, it's like when Becky first came together with the team in early 2021. This was the polite stage. Although the team was together, this was their chance to form connections with Becky and look up to her. So this was their chance to learn her strategies, learn her way of running things, and just getting to know her. Though that does lead to storming. Storming, when players try to go for leadership positions, there can often be clashes, conflicts, sides to be picked, and war. Kidding. The attitude does shift into something more negative, though. But this does leave room for ideas of how to move forward. When moving forward, we go into norming. Norming is where players start to work together. Group goals are more accepted, and team members begin to accept accountability and responsibility. And at this point, respect is built. Once issues and other aspects can be addressed and resolved, it goes into performing. The Aces have done well in this aspect, winning twice after all. The team is directed, and Becky doesn't need to worry too much about intervening, as things are now settled and respect is well built. The Aces are high performing, and they balance and optimize performance and team effectiveness well. Taking these steps into account, it's like a recipe for an iconic team. Though there are a lot of things to consider when managing a team. Managing teams is a challenge, especially when there are high stakes involved, like a WNBA championship. Becky Hammon uses teamwork to her advantage, using players' ambitions and common goals to make the dream work. A team, a sports team no less, needs to successfully work together, though factors like creating an environment where members can grow is important too. When games become task-driven and outcome-driven, like scoring points or moving up the brackets, it is still important to keep your players in mind, because it's them who can make the real difference to their goals and outcome. As a manager, there's a paradox that arises. In the case for Becky, she'll need to consider her players as individuals and as a team. She can meet a single player to help them develop their skills and encourage their growth, using those differences to improve the team. Though Becky needs to balance the goals and growth of the team as an overall as well. There are other paradoxes to consider, whether it be her authority versus the team autonomy, or balancing the triangle of relationships, like you can see on the PowerPoint here. Becky also manages the team boundaries. She'll handle game plans, conferences, hecklers, or other external factors, acting like a buffer for her players. That way they can focus on the game, and she can focus on their success. Becky will pick the players with the right skill sets and give them functions like the winning game plan, and use experience the players have built in order to work through any conflict. Though speaking of conflicts, although they're seen as disasters, if teams like the Aces can solve and resolve the issues, they can come out stronger and well-rounded. When conflicts arise, they can stem from a lack of communication or competing views and goals, power struggles, or even differing personalities. When players want to show off or try to make plays by themselves without consulting the team, that could lead to some issues, though there are ways of addressing that. Mining actually avoids the conflict before it becomes a serious issue. It would be like if Becky picks up on disagreements within the team and brings them to light. It's the same mentality of being honest with your thoughts and feelings instead of letting them fester and blow up. The sooner it's addressed, the sooner they can be resolved. Though there's also real-time permission. This could be like a team intervention, where everyone gets vulnerable and expresses their concerns, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Becky's role would be to remind the team as to why they're meeting, to remind them of the importance of resolving their conflict. Team members address and navigate issues. Model behavior has leaders being constructive while addressing the conflict and bringing the issues to light to be addressed, and resolving it as a team. The Aces face many challenging with butting heads or growing conflicts, but with Becky's guidance, they can be set on the right path.
In the latter parts of chapter 15, it talks about teams being diverse and teams having multicultural looks to them. In this case, we are examining the Las Vegas Aces. Their whole organization is very diverse from top to bottom. The owner is Mark Davis, who also owns the Las Vegas Raiders, who used to be Oakland Raiders. Their general manager is Natalie Williams. The chief business development officer is Jennifer Azizi. And of course, as we've mentioned, the head coach is Becky Hammon, who served as Greg Popovich's assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs. Mark Davis decides to move the San Antonio Aces to Las Vegas, and he needed a new coach to fill that role. And he looked no further than to Becky Hammon, who had gained a lot of knowledge of basketball by being under the tutelage of Greg Popovich, who is a NBA Finals coach. He's coached a lot of Hall of Famers, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Manu Ginobili, the list goes on and on. And Mark Davis came after Becky Hammon and made her the head coach. But not only her, but he brought in a female to be the general manager. When you look around the landscape of sports organizations, there aren't a lot of women who are general managers of teams. So because of this move, it has created a diverse culture within the Las Vegas organization. As we read more in chapter 15, it talks about diverse perspectives can be helpful when solving problems because a diverse group is more inclined to research information and leave out their own personal biases. Women bring new ideas and perspectives to an arena that is dominated by men, as I've mentioned before. Prior to this change, there has been, a whole list of men who are general managers within organizations. But this influx of talented women have changed the landscape of the organizations. Becky has made an impact on a lot of females to be coaches within the four major sports. Jennifer King is an assistant running back coach for the Washington Commanders. Lori Locust is an assistant defensive line coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Catherine Smith is the special teams quality coach for the Buffalo Bills. The list goes on and on, everyone. Even though there's benefits for multicultural teams, there's also a host of disadvantages. And one of those disadvantages can be communication. Communication is very important within a diverse group because some coaches are very direct in their approach while others are more reserved. Lastly, as we conclude here, have some questions for you to think about. Have you ever been a part of a team or organization that did not incorporate the importance of diversity? Have you ever managed a team? If so, what was your experience and how did the manager of the team perform? Thank you so much for listening to our talk and our presentation. We hope you gain a lot of insights on teams. Take care.